For many years living in the UK, I carried this heavy, suffocating fear. It's the fear of moving back to Nigeria. And it's this quiet panic that most people that live in the diaspora carry. We worry about insecurity, we worry about our children adapting. We even worry about little things, small things. For me, I was so I was so terrified. I can't even lie to you about driving in on the roads in Nigeria. But 1 year ago, I packed our bags, held my son's hand, and we made the leap. We moved to Nigeria, to Anambra State, Oka to be precise. And here today, I'm in the UK on holiday. And looking back on our 1 full year that we spent in Nigeria, I'm here to tell you, I'm here to make the announcement that the shackles in my mind have been broken, officially broken. I can boldly say that. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Madam Chumzy. On this channel, we have raw, unedited conversations about relocation, especially relocating to Nigeria, live in Nigeria and live in the diaspora. Please, if you've not subscribed to my channel, I'll beg you to please consider doing so. Like my videos, share my videos, and also click on notification bell so you receive notification anytime I upload a new video. Today, we need to talk about the trap. It's not the economic trap, but the mental trap. Last weekend, I was with a group of people and they knew that I'd been in Nigeria for the full year. And the questions that coming in: how was Nigeria? How did you cope? What about insecurities? And what was obvious to me from our conversation was that many people, or most people, are terrified of moving back to Nigeria. And that just triggered me, and I decided I was going to do these videos. So many people that are terrified of going back home or moving back home. There's terror of the unknown, terror of insecurity, terror of failing. So today, if you're in any part of the diaspora, I've come to tell you that if you focus on that fear, you'll never ever go back home. And that's what I've come to tell you today. Wherever you are in the diaspora, we need to break out from that prison. The prison of the mind, the shackles that is holding us, that fear of moving back to Nigeria. We need to break free from it, because if you don't, it will rob you of the things that you enjoy. It will rob you of your home, which is Nigeria, if you don't break out from that. Let's be completely honest. The fear of insecurity and kidnapping, it's, will I say, the ultimate stronghold, or one of the, will I say, strongest hold that's keeping people in the diaspora trapped wherever they are living. It's preventing them from making that move back home. I myself, I did have those fears. They kept me awake. So when people see you relocate, they think that you just packed your bags. No, I had those fears. They kept me awake in the night. I kept thinking, am I making the right decision, or rather, are we making the right decision? Because it was me and my husband that decided that we make that move. You're scared, as in, I had that fear of, is this the right thing for my child or for our son? But we made the move. What I would say is that I did push through that fear and made the move. And one thing I can tell you, after living in Nigeria for, and bearing in mind, I did move to the southeast, which most people really consider as a no-go area when it comes to relocation. We chose the southeast for reasons, personal reasons. As I said, my husband is from Oka. We wanted to go to the southeast. Lagos would have been another option for us. My son's cousins, his cousins that of his age, they live there. And for me, I'm more used to Lagos because I was born in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. Yeah, but we chose to go to the Dragon's Den, So the fear of the southeast is the anxiety is usually on another level. I'm not saying that the other places that, let me say some parts of the north, which I don't know much about, obviously, where you have the issues of terrorism, you get me, more prominent there. Anyway, we did move. And what I want to say to people is that I'm not saying that be careless. That's not what I'm trying to say. Moving back home, or relocation, it requires wisdom. You want to be safe, and safety requires wisdom. It requires you to be vigilant, and also, will I say, street smart. But one thing I want to say is that the fear, if you focus on it, is magnified. We've been to Nigeria, we've lived a year, and I can tell you that people are living their lives in Nigeria. They're living deeply fulfilled lives in Nigeria. People are going about their business, people are building empires, people are going to shops, taking their children to school, just living their life, living a vibrant and enjoying themselves. That's the only thing I can say. So if what I would say is that if they are kidnapping people every day, then the streets will be empty. And I'm not downplaying insecurity. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying people should rather not consider that. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the point I'm trying to say is that if we focus on these things, if you put your mind too much on them, you will not go home. You will never ever go home because you keep hearing this popping up, the news, this one, this happened here, that happened there. And it's even as you keep thinking about it, that fear is magnified in your head. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that Nigeria is perfect. That's not what I'm trying to say. Nigeria has its challenges. What I'm trying to say is that when you're abroad, the fear magnifies the monster. You imagine the worst case scenario every day. That's what's just in your head. But what I've realized or I've experienced is that when you get home, you adapt, and that's the truth. You learn how to move. You learn where you know where to go, where how to navigate, how to just live your life normally. Initially, to be honest with you, when I got back home, I did have that. Of course, I was more cautious. I'm not saying I'm no longer cautious. That's not what I'm saying. The fear was still there. The fear was still there, but as we continued staying, the days passed, it started disappearing. Now, I'm not saying that I'm just living carelessly. That's not what I'm saying. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. Obviously, you have your risk assessment, things that you will not you you wouldn't do or you would do, and what time you do them. You get me? I'm not saying you just go, you travel anywhere or do anything you want to do. For example, I remember when my friend did say that we should go to she's from Newi, that we would go to Newi. You know, I fear leaving Oka, unless it's airport straight, maybe traveling to Lagos or traveling um out of the country. But like doing interstate travel or travel from one town to another, if you know, I fear those things. But she was like, "Oh, we go to let's go to Newi." So I was like, "Okay, let me speak to my husband too." But I did say to her that she should not feel bad if my husband says no, that I cannot make that journey. So she was like, "No, no problem." So I did say to my husband I wanted to that we're going to Newi. I was very glad I did. I enjoyed the trip. She drove us, two of us. We went to New. I enjoyed it. I was so happy. And when she was telling me, I was like, "Oh, today I'm going to break that fear of, leaving Oka, or by road. I mean, I will leave Oka, but doing like it's not interstate, but just New is a town, in Anambra, another town in Anambra." So I was glad I did that. The point I'm trying to make, even with the driving thing, I could employ someone to drive me, but this my own for security reasons. I wouldn't want someone to drive me. I wouldn't for now. I don't trust no driver unless it's a family member that I really know that I can trust. So that's the reason I don't have any driver. So I had to drive. I've never driven since going back home. All my years living in the UK, I've never driven in Nigeria, but I had no option this time. I had to drive. And the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes for you to conquer fear, you have to face the fear, or you have to do things that you're scared of to build your confidence. That's the point I'm trying to say. I'm not saying now that I really really enjoy driving in Nigeria. No, but at least I've conquered that fear. That I've taken that step of driving. You know, so that's the point I'm trying to make, is that for you to free your mind from the fear of going back home, you have to go back home. So if you're considering, I'm not talking about going to visit. For some people, they're even scared of going to visit. But if you're thinking of relocating, whether temporarily or permanently, I think for you to conquer that fear, you'd have to make that step. And it's just to encourage people that are thinking of relocating and are scared. I was in that position. I was I was scared. I thought of so many things, you know, but we really wanted to do it. We really, really wanted to make that move, but fear. I had that fear of what if this, what if that, how would I cope? Things that you worry about, bearing in mind that you're like moving from what you know to what you don't really know. You're moving from certainty to uncertainty. So I had that fear, but and I thank God that I did come out of it and made that decision that okay, I would go with my son. I'm so grateful for that, because it's even with my son, I can see the when we came initially, I could see the fear, not fear of not the kind of fear what we fear. Obviously, he might not really know fully what's going on in Nigeria. Fear like if my son sees war gecko problem, he'll be screaming. If the light goes up, as in if the light goes off, for even like once it goes off and it's like in the night, my son is screaming. He wants the light on. So, but I can see now that he's gradually changed, in the sense that okay, if the light goes off, he can wait till whatever, whether we need to put on the gen, or whatever we need to do, check what's wrong, or so I can see that, and I can see the fear of little things like work gecko. Even when he started school, when he comes back home and he's trying to like tell me the names of his classmates, when they say, no, this person did this, but he couldn't even pronounce the names, like the Igbo names, he couldn't pronounce them. And now my son can pronounce those Igbo names well. I can see that, and yeah, he's not like gotten to the point where he understands Igbo fully, but I'm very grateful for the progress. I'm very, very grateful for that progress. I'm not saying that I'm expecting him to, when he grows up, that he would come and say he wants to live in Nigeria. That's not what I'm expecting. If I'm expecting that, then I'm living in La La Land. I'm not saying that he cannot do that. That's not what I'm saying. But the purpose of us taking him back home, which is for him to get used to Nigeria, and which is very, very important. I do think it's important. People don't really, and I'm not saying that things should happen somewhere else, wherever we're living. But as I said, I believe in options. You are not God. Anything can happen. I was watching what's the name of this man? He's a pastor. I know Emmanuel is in his name. I cannot remember the other name. And he was saying that a friend of his was living in Ukraine, had lived in Ukraine for several years. And when the war broke out, the guy came back to Nigeria with nothing. But luckily for him, he had invested in Nigeria, since he had a house in Nigeria, and that was what he continued his life with. Even with the case of South Africa, which is very recent. Imagine if you don't have those people, you don't have anything in Nigeria, and you have to come back. In that case, I wouldn't stay. If it gets to the point where people are beginning to kill people, like what was happening in South Africa, of course, most people want to go back home, but it would be a shame that when you want to go back home, there's really, really nothing to go back to. So what I say to people, I know Nigeria is very, very challenging. I'm not here to come and say Nigeria it's perfect, which you guys know. I always tell you the truth. We have problems in Nigeria. But what I say to people, just try and think about it, that people are still living there. It's just to find a way to, well, I say, manage your situation and navigate through the system in Nigeria, which can be a bit complex. But by God's grace, it's possible. Just being careful and I always say do your risk do your risk analysis. So it's just to encourage people that if you're thinking of the move, and as I said, I didn't relocate permanently. I don't believe in moving to a place as in just having one. I don't. I believe in options, as I've always said. And for people that are in diaspora that have, let's say you have a dual citizenship, as I've always said, that it's a privilege. So it gives you the opportunity to, you can live a hybrid life. That's the word, a hybrid lifestyle. If you feel to this time you're staying in Nigeria, you don't feel like staying in Nigeria, you move to another place, and you think, okay, I should be in this other Nigeria, you move to Nigeria. That's the way I believe that is the best for me. I'm not saying for, it's up to you how you want to live, but I'm here to encourage people that are struggling mentally. You know, it's a different thing if you're struggling economically, but mentally people are struggling, and I know I've been there. It's hard. It's a tough decision to make. That you can, if I can do it, you can do it. And I'm not saying just be careless. That's not what I'm saying. You have to take calculated risks. That's what I'm trying to say. So don't make your fear or the fear to become bigger than the reality. I'm glad I went home. I went home for this 1 year. So I experienced the good, the bad, the ugly, the frustrating. But overall, I'm grateful I did, and I'm happy. I'm very, very, very happy. We're happy that we made that decision. That's myself and my husband. And what I'll tell you is that going back home did not make Nigeria perfect. Obviously, Nigeria is not perfect. But one thing I'll tell you, that going back home has made me to be less afraid of Nigeria, and that's what I've come to realize, or what's happened to me. So that'll be it for today. I would like you guys to I would like to hear from you guys. And is any one of you planning to relocate? What's your fear? You know, in the comment section, I would like to hear from you guys. So thank you guys so much for listening up to this point. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. I want to say a massive thank you to all of you that subscribed to my channel. Thank you guys so much. I'm really, really grateful for all of your support. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.